Today we're taking a look at a long-standing, well, long-standing meaning 7 years, a tradition in the Walpole Public Schools, which is to say the innovation of the summer reading program. We'd like to discuss the program in concept, some of the reading in particular, and today I've invited a student from Walpole High School to be my conversational partner. Matt Burns. Matt, thanks for coming.
No problem.
Great. I think I and many other people may have interesting opinions or ideas about reading in general, summer reading, books in particular, but I thought it would be instructive if we could hear from one of the students, you might say the target for the program in the school system. Let me begin with some just general questions, and Matt can fill us in a bit. As I said, the program's been around for 7 years, or they say it's the 7th year.
Right.
Now, Matt, you're a junior about to be a senior in another month or two. And from middle school, when you were in the middle school, the program, and when I say program, summer reading did exist?
Right, yeah, it did exist.
What kind of impressions can you think of back a few years about middle school, or maybe even as a freshman in high school? And, you know, was it a serious thing, a good thing, and what general?
Well, I don't know. I guess when any student hears the word summer reading, they always think, oh, I have to read during the summer and stuff like that. But it really wasn't that bad. It was just like you read 2 books and you have 2 quizzes when you come back in the fall. And yeah, it wasn't really that bad. I mean, it was a chore that you sort of felt it was a chore. The books tended to be pretty good though, and so it wasn't that bad. Yeah.
In the early days of the program, as you remember, let's say, whether it be 7th grade, 8th grade, 9th grade, you were given a list in general. Now, was it a list like per course, or just a list of things to read, or pick from to read?
It was a list to pick from, actually, yeah. It was. They gave you a large list, and you can pick whatever you want.
Right. Now, it seems as if, as I, not being involved in the system, but just looking at this program, that it appears that there's some major changes taking place this year. And I think as we talked just a little bit earlier, like, it may not be obvious to everybody.
Right.
But one of the changes appears to be, and again, I'm asking you, maybe last year as a sophomore becoming a junior, this year junior becoming a senior. This year they're saying that not only are there books to select from for English, but then for the languages or the sciences or the social studies courses. So you have to pick from a list for books from like several courses. Is that a change?
Right, yes, it's a big change. We used to just read books for English, basically, and then once, after a couple years, we started to get like science articles and stuff. It kept on building up until this year. It's basically every subject that we have summer reading in.
So that's a big change, that not just picking from a list, but picking from a list for like each course.
Right.
Right.
Each course, we have something to do.
Right. One of the major changes, and I say major because it didn't strike me as major until I talked to some people, but they use the word assessment. And that's kind of a fancy word in a sense of saying, well, rather than testing kids, as you said earlier, a few years ago, they'd be offering you as the first week of coming back from summer, and here's a short answer test to see, you know, if you've read, what you've read, and so forth. But now they're using the word assessment, which means there's more going on than just saying, do you know the right character, who wrote the book? And the vehicle is given in this program a form, like when they gave you the reading list, they also gave you some kind of they call it a form to fill out, but not to fill out to say directions. If I read these 2 books, what do I have to do? Perhaps you can tell me something a bit about what you have to do when you go back to school.
Yeah, well, what we have to do is, well, in some subjects like Spanish, we have to have a journal prepared, like I think it's like 8 different journal entries of 2 pages length in Spanish. So we'll have to have that ready for September. And in English, we have to read 2 books and do a 3-page report on each for September. And that includes like a summary of the plot, like a character analysis, stuff like that. And the same with history too. Read a book and about a 3-page report on that. And the books that they tend to give us are pretty lengthy,
Right.
pretty big books. And in science, we have to read articles,
Right.
choose articles, and do 1 to 2 page summaries on those 6 articles.
Uh-huh.
So that's what we have to have ready
Wow.
for September.
This is sort of an ambitious program.
Yeah.
Right. Now, it's one thing, I suppose, for students who may have lots of, quote, leisure time, and summer is leisure time, but you're an involved person and not unique by any stretch of the imagination, but being involved with musical activities, and in the high school you've been doing theater, drama work,
Right.
band, and running track and so forth.
Mhm.
So in the course of the school year, how many courses were you taking, like last year as a junior?
Yeah,
As
7.
many as you could take?
Yeah, I was taking 7.
So there were no study halls.
Right.
They'd gone away anyway. And so now for the summer, it's as if you're sort of continuing
Yeah, it's.
the regime.
I was hoping to get a break during the summer, and I mean I will get a break, but it's sort of like I always want, like, for example, I wanted to read a book during the summer, like on my own. Like there was this book I heard of, and I said, well, I don't have much time now, but maybe in the summer. But now when I start reading the book, I sort of feel guilty because I say to myself, well, as long as I'm reading
taking
now,
time from this.
yeah, I might as well be doing my summer reading while I'm reading this book. So
Right.
it's just, I don't know, and that's why I think it's kind of a negative thing, a negative effect,
Mm.
what it does.
Let's talk specifically, and again, we could talk a lot more about some of the details of the program, and I might do that later on in the summer as you're approaching the school year. But I'd like to zero in a bit, realizing it's only one part of the whole program. But the English, you're taking in the fall when you begin the first term what's called AP, Advanced Placement English.
Right.
And they indicate again that from the reading list you should pick one which is required, and we'll talk about that, and then pick one as an optional selection from the other 4. Again, I'm asking these questions not so much to be, let's say, critical or to be inquisitive, but to get an understanding of what's happening.
Right.
As the school year came to a close in June and your English teacher would pass out this material, did they offer you any ideas about the books, what you'll be reading, what to look for, or what AP English as a senior would be like, that sort of thing?
No, I really can't say. I mean, some other teachers may have, but the ones,
In your case.
and actually, like being in an honors class, it should be most important that like the honors teachers tell about the next honor class next year. But
preview, right?
yeah, a
Yeah.
preview of what the AP class is actually going to be like. But we got none of that. Our teacher just like passed it out and said, "Have fun."
Have
And,
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
guidance.
I'm intrigued because, as you know a lot, I spent a great deal of my life because of my time and so forth reading, and I'm looking at the list, and just like to kind of share a few things with you. They indicated that the mandatory, obligatory of the book you must read is James Joyce's Portrait of an Artist as a Young Man, which is a wonderful book, and James Joyce is a wonderful writer. For people who steep themselves in what's called the classics or the Western canon. However, it just seems to me that you would find it, I would think, many students or people, young adults, picking up a book like James Joyce and without some sense of what is here, just to crack it open. In either freshman, sophomore, or other years, junior years in English, have anybody spoken, talked about that kind of writing, like who is James Joyce?
No, none at all.
Yeah, so this is a new name for you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah. There was a remark made by a fellow the other day saying, the recommendation he would make, and I would agree, that books like the Bible, as one kind of great writing, or books like this, should never be read alone. And I think what this fellow was saying is that if you're reading the Bible, which is terrific works to read, but complicated, or Joyce, which is terrific, but complicated. You should not read it alone. But what he was saying is not so much like not have somebody with you while you're reading, page by page, but have some material to help you work through, like, why is he saying this, what's going on.
Right.
So that's the kind of thing.